it. I mean, this is the thing. It depends on who's listening to the show, right? So there's people that listen to the show that are super advanced, and there's brand new people that have never done a deal before. So
Right.
how do you meet in the middle? What do you talk about that really makes it so that everybody can relate to you, right?
That's really tough.
That's, I mean, it is. So what I try to do as a mediator, as a host or whatever, if you start talking about something that is much more advanced, then I'm going to try to shut you up a little bit and dumb it
Right.
down a little bit. Why don't you explain for the listeners a little bit more about whatever you're talking about?
Right.
So what do you got going on today? How are things?
Things are good. I just did an agreement with those guys. They have a big 50 lot deal in Whitman where they control 50 lots. And I am doing a lot of mobile home stuff. And so I'm bringing my mobile home dealer to the table, funding the project, and they're cutting me in 50-50 on the deal if I run the project. So that's what we were sitting down talking about. So it's kind of that's a big deal. I think we'll make over a 2-year period, we'll probably make about 1.8 on it. And, that's not too bad.
No, not too
Wholesale's making 900 grand over 2 years on one project. Pretty good.
Yeah, it actually is pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's Whitman, which means I got to have one of my team members drive out to Whitman every 10 days, but whatever.
So obviously I know you through everybody else, right? I originally knew you years ago from Johnny May.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. Just because you worked on all the houses that I sold him.
Right.
So,
I worked on the houses you sold him that he couldn't sell.
Yeah. Right.
Every house that I did for John was a property that John was losing. He's going to potentially lose money on. And he just said, well, obviously somebody didn't see the valuation that I did. So I'm going to have you do the flip and I'll just make the flip profit myself. So we probably did 400 plus renovations for him over 4 years. Like we were doing 8 to 10 projects every single month for those guys.
I know.
And then we, about that same time frame, I was doing a lot of stuff for OpenDoor. So I was doing high volume, high amount of houses, but low dollar volume on the houses.
Right.
So each project we were doing for OpenDoor was like $10,000 and under. It's like carpet cleanup, landscape. So we did that for a long time. And man, our margins with them was like 35%, which was great. But then they basically started bringing stuff internally. And at that point, I just decided I'm going to transition full-time wholesale.
Is that yours or is that mine that's beeping?
That's me. That's mine. I'm turning it off right now.
All right. Well, there's a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about again on the show. So maybe not the John May stuff. But anyways, let's you're lucky episode number 77.
Dude, I love it.
Yeah. How's everything going on the wholesale side of things for you guys?
The wholesale side is going really well. We did 22 belly-to-belly deals last month, so I'm doing a lot of deals. The advantage I had is that I was trained by home investors for 2 years. So I bought a franchise. And had made the decision, I'm going to keep my construction company and do wholesale at the same time, which was a bad decision. And so what I ended up doing is after 2 years of just working 120 hours a week, 30 hours on wholesale and, 80 hours a week on construction, I decided about 8-9 months ago to completely shut down the construction company. And then I made the decision this year to sell my franchise. And after I sold that, I quadrupled my volume, because you can't do anything with being a homebester franchise other than just wait for your phone to ring.
Yeah. The franchise model in this space, you can go do it on your own. You don't need a franchise model to go do it. You make a lot more money because I'm sure that you were paying quite a bit.
It's tough. Well, they charge you a significant amount of money for your marketing.
Yep.
Significant, like it's 30-40% more than what you could get for it on your own. And then when you do a transaction, they charge you a 10% royalty. Then they charge you a marketing fee. And then they charge you a national budget fee and all this stuff. So by the time I do a $20,000 deal, my net's like $4,000.
So it sounds like being an agent with Keller Williams.
Oh, it's horrible, dude. Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, they drink the Kool-Aid. They're very similar to Keller Williams in the sense that like the brand is there and certain people just think, wow, there's a lot of credibility with it. But after a certain amount of time where you go, like I was top 3% closers in home investors, which was an advantage for me when I went out on my own. But I'm sitting there like, wow, I'm top 3%. And my net take home is like 300 grand a year. Like it's not good enough for me to get excited about. So I started last summer spending a lot of time networking with everybody else and figuring out what everybody else was doing. I tried bringing that to Home Investors Corporate, and they were just absolutely against anything. No SMS, no RBM, no cold call. And I understand there's a lot of legalities with it, but direct mail, the problem with them is that they're spending, when I was on the advertising committee, we spent 200 grand a month on direct mail just in Maricopa County. And the reason being is you have 20 guys that you have to feed leads to.
Yeah.
So the niche list can only go so far. And so you just start blanketing every house in Maricopa County with direct mail. Then you still have a surplus of money. So what do? They do billboards. And in January of this year, January and February, we deployed $100,000 into billboards, and we received this many phone calls. So they're just grasping at straws because the old ways, it was interesting. Last thing I'll say, and I know I can get on tangents, but 15 years ago when they broke into this market, the number one marketing mechanism for them was billboards. That's where all of their leads came from. Now billboards do nothing but maybe imprint something in the, seller's mind where they get home and they see 25 letters on their table. They go, oh, well, I'll open up Home Investors first because I saw them on a billboard 5 minutes ago. That's really all it's doing. So you're paying an extra 100 grand on top of your $200,000 in direct mail just to get people to get your open ratio from 0.4% up to 0.5%, something like that.
I mean, even if it's that, right? I mean,
right.
It's an open rate, but yeah. Have you read the book Shift? Gary Keller wrote it a long time ago.
No, yeah. Somebody else referred it to me. Actually, Steve Trang told me about it.
I mean, it's just all about shifting with the market, doing things that are different, because I'm a big direct mail guy, but that's because it's worked for so long.
Right.
It's predictable for me. But
you're not 20 guys trying to feed 20, if there was 20 Scott Bowers, you would have to spend a lot more money on direct mail. And at that point, there's only so many niche lists that you can mail to.
Right.
Right. So I think I was in a house a couple months ago, and you direct mail to pre-foreclosure for sure, because I had been in this lady's house and your letter was on her table.
Uh-huh.
Nice, handsome picture of you on her table. I think your photo's on your letters, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So It makes sense for an individual or a smaller company that's, doing 20 less deals a month to direct mail. But when you have 20 mouths to feed and a budget of $350,000, and that's your only marketing mechanism, there's a tremendous, there's a cap where it's like, okay, well, you spend 100 grand, and every penny you spend over that, your return on your investment is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So I love direct mail. Dude, our leads were direct mail leads are so money.
I think they're predictable. I don't know. Just don't stop. July was terrible. I got to be honest. July was a terrible month from a revenue standpoint, from a deal flow standpoint, from a call volume standpoint. July sucked. But
my June sucked, but my July was really good.
So then your marketing. So it also is a product. The marketing's 30, 60, maybe even 90 days delayed, right? So whatever you do today, you're not going to see it probably today. You might see some, but you're going to see it next month or by the end of the year, whatever's done today.
Yeah, especially with direct mail, is that we started doing, a lot of people do like a 3-month campaign or a 4-month campaign because we had so much money to spend. We were doing 6 and 7 month campaigns on people. And it was interesting that we would get very little calls for month 1 and 2, but we'd get like tons of calls month 3, and then we'd get a tremendous amount of calls month 5. So it was really interesting. It's like, wow, you have to spend that much money to get a phone call on your 5th mailing to that same house. But again, we were direct mailing to even low equity because we had no other addresses to mail to. So we were just mailing to everybody in Maricopa County.
Like in the whole area.
Oh yeah, everywhere.
That's good. Well, dude, let's get this started, because I feel like we could probably chat all day long.
Oh,
Which is
100%.
good. Love to chat, but yeah. schedule here. All right, so what is this? All right, episode 77. We'll get started. I'm gonna basically intro you to the call. I'll kind of break down the bio, read off the bio that you sent over, at least a synopsis of it, give the listeners a little bit of a preview of who you are, and then I'll hand over the mic, and then I'll let you talk. You can just talk, give the listeners a little bit more about your background. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you great. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, you're good. And then, dude, we're just going to talk for like 30 minutes, who knows, or 40 minutes, whatever, see where it goes and go from there.
Love it.
Cool. Hey, Heather, did you get the new questions? Will you add it in the thing?
Yeah. Do I need to go right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Do I just add it to the Google Doc?
Just put it on the calendar, please. Did you see those 5 questions that were sent over to you?
Yeah.
So we're gonna change them.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
She gonna email them to me or just go off the cuff?
We're just going to top. I mean, it's whatever. I don't think they're not challenging questions if I was answering the problem. So.
Well, as you can tell, I can just talk about anything, so it's not a big deal.
Dude, you and me both, man. I love talking. It's the best thing in the world.
That's why we're good at what we do, bro.
It's true. All right, so let me know when you're ready. We'll count down.
I'm ready, bro. Let's crush it.
3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody. We are at the 77th episode of the #Invested podcast. Of course, I am your host, Scott Bauer, and today we have Pace Morby with us. Pace, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Man, excited for the call here. First and foremost, I want to, if you guys are getting value from the podcast, we're on a mission here right now where we're trying to help everybody elevate their business. And if you're getting value out of this podcast, make sure that you like it, subscribe to it, and more importantly, share it with everybody. Share it on your network so that everybody else can get the same value that you're getting. It's really important to us here to help people explode their business, and we're trying to do that. So it would be
about that. It's really amazing. Some of the guests that you've had on here recently, you've had some super powerful people on here. And if I get a text message from like a newbie that's like, "Hey man, I want to get into this business," it's like, dude, do you not see like Scott Bauer or Steve Trang's podcast? Like, do you guys you can literally learn this entire business by just watching your podcast?
I mean, that's kind of the goal. We're trying to get back that way. So, anybody out there, like, subscribe, and share us. But I want to give a little bit about Pace. Basically, the last 10 years, he's a general contractor. They built hundreds of houses, they flipped hundreds of houses. Thousands of projects. During that time period, some of his biggest clients were OpenDoor, Colony Homes, Invitation Homes. There's some hedge funds in town here. After years of watching other people invest in real estate, Pace and his team transitioned to wholesaling, assisted living, seller finance, and their own flipping operation. Today, he has a team of 15 people. They generate well over $150,000 a month in wholesale fees, operates 7 assisted living facilities, owns 15 subject to properties and counting, and currently managing 7 flips. So that's kind of a lot to begin with.
It is. I call it my ammunition. It's interesting. Like, people go, "Man, that's a lot. That's a lot of stuff that you're working." I go, "Well, think about this. If I'm in a wholesale appointment, and a lot of times, like, one of the first things that we all ask the sellers, say, okay, well, once we strike an agreement, where are you planning on going?" And a lot of times they're getting $30,000, $50,000, $60,000 in cash. And then they go, "Well, I'm going to go rent." So what I realize is I go, "Well, man, I can kind of double dip. I can get the deal wholesale. And then I can take that seller and I can relocate them to maybe a mobile home or something that I will sell or finance back to them. And I can utilize that money they just got from my proceeds as the down payment." And so I got into it naturally because now that is ammunition for me to get that wholesale deal a lot easier than maybe one of my competitors. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're just basically being able to be a one-stop shop for that person, adding value to that person, that seller. And really, I mean, like you said, you're being able to double dip in that example. Now, that's not going to work every time, right?
No.
To go to a manufactured home, maybe they're moving into an assisted living, which sounds like you could help with that as well, possibly. Right. So that's definitely a smart way to go about it. I want to back all the way up to the very beginning when you got started, though, because it's great and fine that it's phenomenal that you're doing everything that you're doing today, but you didn't start that. And so I think it's important for the listeners to know how you got started, and let's walk through that a little bit.
Yeah. So in 2017, I had a lady come to me, and she was a HomeVestor franchise, and I was doing flips for her through my construction company. So my employees were running her renovations. She comes to me and she says, "Hey, I've seen you work really hard for the last couple of years, and you're working, and I just wanted to let you in on a little secret. Construction is not a great way for you to retire, and you need to make a transition, and I'm going to offer you my business for sale. I'm going to sell my business to you." And I said, "Wow, okay." So I very long story short, I bought her franchise. So in Phoenix, there's 20 franchisees and HomeVestors, and you cannot just buy a franchise. You have to buy an existing franchise from another business owner that's retiring, or he's not successful and he wants to dump it or whatever. But Phoenix, very, very successful 20 group of guys that is just super successful. It's hard to buy a franchise. A couple $100,000 is what it costs. But I bought the franchise. I put $5,000 in for advertising my first month. So this was January 2017. I put $5,000 in. And because of my not natural ability, but because I'd been selling millions of dollars of construction, I knew how to talk to people. So phone starts ringing, and my first month I made $50,000 take home, not knowing even what an assignment contract was or any of that stuff. All I knew is that the previous 3 or 4 years before that, I was going into other wholesalers' buy appointments, not knowing what they were trying to do. And they would say, "Hey, will you come and represent yourself as my contractor and do all this stuff?" And I'm like, man, then some of these guys would let me know, "Man, I just made $30,000 on that appointment. Thank you so much for coming." And they'd throw me $200. And I'm like, what am I missing here? Right. So I think it was a huge blessing for me because I was running such a big company that I didn't have, or at least I told myself this, I didn't have the time to go learn wholesale and learn the marketing mechanisms and all that stuff behind it. HomeVestors really gave me that jolt of like immediate success my first month. And from that point, I think subconsciously I started planning my exit from construction because I said, wow, I made $50,000 take home in my first month, not even knowing this business. This is crazy. This is like winning the lottery. And that's how I got started. So now here we are 2.5 years later that I sold the franchise because it actually ended up limiting me way more than it was benefiting me after probably the first 12 months.
And we kind of talked about that before the show here, about, buying into a franchise in this space is definitely going to limit you. I mean, you can go do this on your own instead of paying the royalties and the other fees that they're going to associate or give you, right? I mean,
right. There's a lot of things that they don't let you do as well. And one of the big kind of linchpins for me in my decision was that in January timeframe, February timeframe, I had people come to me and say that were HomeVestor franchisees and say they were upset with my Instagram and my Facebook. And I then had corporate reach out to me and say, well, you're posting things on your Instagram and Facebook that actually can be deemed as advertising. And I go, well, yeah, aren't I supposed to be looking for deals any possible way I can? And they essentially threatened to shut my franchise down. So I just went to them and said, guys, I'm not going to stop Facebooking and Instagramming. I'm selling my franchise. I mean, even to the point where you can't do certain things on your social media. They try and control everything you do.
Yeah, I'd have a huge problem with that. I'm not a big guy to ask for permission. That's only for forgiveness, right? I mean,
right.
It's not. I think as a business owner, you need to have the availability to leverage and do things the way that you need to do them to get the ultimate result you're looking for. And if there's anybody, especially a corporation or something like that, that's the reason you don't go work for corporate America, right?
Right. And you know what else has happened really in the franchise model is that the franchise model, I feel like, is the Blockbuster of wholesale.
Yeah.
Netflix is the guys like you and, now me, I finally realized the error of my ways that I was limited and I had a cap, but basically new technology, new systems, even down to the CRM that some of these franchises have, they're so antiquated and outdated because they're making money and they've had really, really good run. They're not reinvesting it. And so what's happening is this tremendous uprising of newbie wholesalers that have these amazing tools that they're coming in and destroying the franchise model, that guys that are paying $200,000 just to own a territory are getting their butts handed to them by some guy that came in with $1,500.
Right.
Right.
And that's the reality of things. I think technology is turning over so quickly. I mean, I try to stay on the forefront of it. Matter of fact, it helps to develop the CRM that I use now. But it's changing. I mean, it's changing so quickly. I watched an article or an interview last night with Tony Robbins that's like 2 years old. And they were talking about, it was him and Peter Diamandis talking, and just how quickly technology is moving forward is way faster than what we think it is, right?
Right.
So the old models, the old way of doing things just isn't going to be around long enough for it to matter.
No,
it's already
it's crazy. Everything's absolutely crazy. Like what's changed in the last little bit, and what we were talking about is just look at 15 years ago when the franchise model came into Phoenix. Their entire marketing mechanism was billboards. Now, and they weren't doing direct mail, they weren't doing TV, radio, or any of this stuff that they're doing now. But now their billboards don't receive any phone calls. The only thing the billboards do now is reinforce maybe the seller to say, well, okay, well, I've got a stack of letters. I'm going to take that letter a little bit more credibly because I saw a billboard outside. But there's no phone calls coming in on hundreds of thousands of dollars of billboard spend. And as much as you try and explain that to the higher ups in these franchise models, they go, well, if the wheel isn't broken, don't fix it. I'm like, guys,
it is broken.
The wheel doesn't look broken, but I promise you the lug bolts are the lug nuts are going to pop right off and the wheel is going to fly right off the car. So anyway, I'm grateful to be out of it. I'm grateful for what it brought me. I was able to, what's ironic about it is even that franchise model brought a lot of credibility in certain circles. So I would go maybe sit down with a probate attorney and say, yeah, I own the Phoenix market for home investors. And they would immediately go, wow, okay, you're credible. I had 14 other 21-year-olds come in here yesterday that couldn't put 3 sentences together. It was instant credibility for a while. And once I blew past that and I tried to grow to a point where I was probably averaging 4 or 5 deals a month, and I wanted to go to 10. There is, in my opinion, no possible way to do 10 deals inside of that mechanism. It's impossible.
So, I mean, with that, okay, so you made the decision that you want to go and you kind of get out of that franchise model. You got into your own model. You know what to do now. Let's talk about how you kind of were able to scale from 4 to 10 deals or 4 to 20 deals or whatever it was. What was if you could name one thing that made the difference, what would that one thing be?
Being really creative was my first, I think, eye-opening thing. So, for example, inside that franchise model, sorry, we're spending so much time on the franchise model, but inside that franchise model, they would tell you, okay, you have to go out and get 50% of your deals from your own network. So every time I had an idea of a type of way I would network with a realtor or whatever, they would continually come back to me and say, well, no, the way you're doing is wrong. You can't do that. You can't say this. So most people in that franchise model quit and they only focus on waiting for the phone to ring. What I did is I went to probate attorneys, and instead of going to the probate attorney and saying, hey, I'm a real estate investor, what I would do is I would go to probate attorneys and say, hey, I'm a property solutions company, and this is what I do. I buy abandoned cars, I buy boats, I help out with cats and dogs. If they have a red tag from the city or the house has been abandoned, broken windows, I will do anything I can. And so I went and met with probate attorneys. And what I did is I said, hey, I'm a new business. I want to get your advice on this new business I'm creating around probate services. Can I pay you $300 for your time, your hourly wage, or not wage, but your hourly rate, and come into your office and tell you about my business? I just want some advice, and you tell me where there's holes in my business and whatever. I already knew it was a great idea. But now I'm asking them for advice to help me rather than, hey, I want to pitch you something. And the first meeting I went to is a gentleman named Ryan. The next day he sends me a deal. This is like 6 months before I sold my franchise. And the next day after I met with him, he sends me a deal. I get 2 cars for free. I get a boat for free. I rehomed a dog, and I made, I think, $48,000 on the transaction. So all of that was me being creative. Instead of me saying, hey, I want to buy the house, I said, how can I solve your out-of-state the person who's inheriting the property is out of state. I will handle everything for that. So I looked at that and I go, wow, this is an eye opener. I don't need anybody to generate leads for me. I could literally do nothing but probate and go after probate attorneys and be a successful wholesaler and a successful real estate investor. So as that developed, I got to a point in January of this year that I was getting about 5 deals a month through probate. And then the franchise model started questioning how I was doing certain things. And so once I sold the franchise, I scaled that. And then in the meantime, I actually found a partner, because I don't know how you are, Scott, in your business, but I don't want to be in front of a computer. I want to be in front of sellers all day long. That's my unique ability. And you're probably the same way. Great talker, great rapport builder. So I found a partner named Cody. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see he gets tagged a lot. And he runs all my SMS, all my RVM, runs all our cold callers, runs Podio. And then we have 2 employees that I took from construction and reappropriated them into my wholesale business. And they just set appointments for me all day long. So I'm out in the field managing flips, driving by assisted living facilities, going to probate attorneys, and everybody else is just filling my calendar with opportunities all day long. And that's how I was able to scale.
That is literally the most beautiful thing in the world. I mean, in the world. I spend too much time now in front of the computer, I got to be honest. And we're making some changes right now.
Yeah.
As I'm moving into a different office, new space, anyways, cool things to come. But I really like the way that you approach going at probate attorneys, because that's the same way that you kind of approach raising private capital.
Right.
Say, hey, approach somebody and say, hey, I have this great deal. I want your opinion on it.
Oh, hell yeah. I like that idea.
Yeah. Who might that would be interested in a deal like this, and then they say, oh yeah, well, me,
I love that. That's really smart.
It's the same approach. You're not going at them asking, you're going at them for their opinion. And
right.
in turn, you're going to get the feedback that you want. Right?
I love that. That's really good. That's brilliant.
Yeah. So, that was only at the beginning of this year when you kind of really got out of the franchise, and then you've been able to kind of scale up. Now,
I did. I'd say I did 45 deals my first year, and then I did 55 deals last year, and I realized I really couldn't grow past that. And so far, here we are, August. I've probably done about 120 deals so far already this year.
Dude, so yesterday I was having a conversation, 2 days ago, with my title rep about we went to lunch. Maybe it was yesterday. What's today? No, it was on Monday. So a few days ago. And I said, there's a certain point, even if you're the best of the best, there's a certain point where you cannot do any more volume as a single person.
Right.
I've hit that. I'm there. I've been there for 2 years. I've hit that ceiling every single year. Now it's time to grow. My problem that I've had is having people, bringing people in, right?
Right.
And that's what I was asking. What was that one thing that allowed you to really scale up and really grow?
I think, honestly, the number one thing, as cliche as it is, because people throw book ideas out, the answer I gave you is still my answer. But the reason I thought about it differently is that I read the book Rocket Fuel.
Yep.
And I realized that I should stop trying to do everything. And then Gary Vee said something on a podcast where he goes, dude, stop trying to learn everything and do everything. I get it. You're okay at free throws. You're okay at dribbling. You're okay at all this stuff, but you're amazing at 3-point shots. Just go stand on the 3-point line and tell everybody to pass you the ball. And so that's what I did. Is I found a center, I found a power forward, I found this, and I just put myself in the right position. So in the morning time, this sounds really stupid and maybe arrogant, but in the morning I text my team and I go, hey guys, we only have one buy appointment on the calendar. You're not putting me in the game. Put Kobe on the court. Kobe's sitting on the bench. And so everybody's focused on making sure that I'm in my appropriate location, because people like you and me, we love talking and we love being in front of people, but everybody else that runs my systems, it's the most uncomfortable thing for them to go and have to have confrontation with anybody. So I utilize that as my advantage. I go, guys, I will do all the confrontation. I'll do all the challenging stuff that, at least in your world, but keep me away from the computer, keep me away from the office, and just line up my opportunities all day long. And I came up with that because of Rocket Fuel.
So Rocket Fuel is a phenomenal book. I just read it earlier this year as well. So what I was looking for, and I think I might have found now, is the integrator, right? Somebody that
have to get one, yeah.
You have to have one. I think it's common for all entrepreneurs to try to do everything for a long period of time, especially if you see success with it.
Right.
right? But so that was the answer that I wanted to hear from you, is that, you know, finding your integrator, finding your team that allowed you to do what you're best at has allowed you to scale up and really catapult your business from doing.
You know what's interesting about that? So I was talking to two guys the other day, a gentleman named Zach and a gentleman named Alan. Okay. So it's very clear, like you and I, we can go into a room and we can see types of people,
Yep.
right? I can see one of them is an integrator and one of them is a visionary, right? You're way more visionary than you are integrator. Like you're obviously an entrepreneur. You can envision what you want. The challenge is you probably have so many ideas. It's hard. It's the same thing with me. I have so many ideas. I need somebody to implement it. And then I need to be able to hold somebody accountable and say, guys, I told you to do this. I'm walking out that door. I'm not doing it. By the time I come back, it needs to be done, or I'll find somebody that will do it. And that sounds like an asshole, but that's not really it. But anyway, Alan and Zach are sitting next to each other. And they're both trying to start their own wholesale business, because if when you go back to that book on rocket fuel, which is really interesting, the integrator, not for some reason, I know why, they're not the rock star, right? They don't have the spotlight. They don't seem cool. They feel like they're constantly left out. And I had to like shake this guy and go, do you guys not see that you actually should be partners rather than going at this individually on your own? One guy should be in the field. The other guy should be sitting in front of a computer, and you guys should just link up. Because I think the challenge, and I did this in my construction company, I was a solopreneur for a very long time. I had this huge challenge of being able to do everything I wanted to do, but I didn't want to split things 50-50. But the reality is, this is something Scott, I learned this year, bro. Like, this isn't something I learned years ago. I just learned this 6 months ago. 1 + 1 shouldn't equal 2. 1 + 1 should equal 11. And that's the way that I'm looking at anytime I bring on a partnership. I say, you handle all of that, and I promise you I will 4x, 5x all of our sales results, because I can go focus on what I'm really good at. And dude, I'm grateful for the fact that actually, you know how I found that my integrator? I was on Steve Trang's podcast, and my integrator reached out to me and goes, dude, I can't close deals, but I can generate a shit ton of leads. And so I said, great, I'm not a lead generator. I just sold off my deal. Why don't we link up and see if this is good? And we worked together for 3 months, and then finally started a partnership after 3 months of success. So
that's beautiful, man. I love to hear that. And it's interesting how you come across with people, right?
Right.
You were also probably at a point in your life where, like, I mean, you were looking for that person. You might not have been actively looking for it, but you put it into the universe. You were looking for
right.
it. You know, certain things happen at certain times to allow that person to come into your life. So, I mean, that's phenomenal. And I think that's how it always works.
I got really lucky, and there's been some other integrators that have come across in the last 3 or 4 months where I'm like, man, if I could have gone back in a time machine 2 years ago, this is what I would have told myself. I would have said, shut down the construction company immediately, sell your franchise, and go find an integrator to go focus on the things that yes, Scott, you're good at everything. I'm good. I feel like I'm good at everything. Like, I can go play Monopoly and Uno, and I'm pretty good at all that stuff, but I'm everything I do, whether it's games or sports or whatever, I'm okay. But what I'm really, really good at is being in front of sellers. So why would I try and do anything else? So that's what I would have done. Go back in a time machine, shake my own neck and say, dude, stop trying to do everything.
So I would agree, and I'm kind of in the same spot, but I also believe in the fact that you wouldn't be where you're at now had that not happened to you.
100%.
Experience, right?
You're right.
These things lead to here, where you're at now, and what you're going through now is going to lead to the next place, right? Who knows where that is?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, 2 years ago, I probably wasn't ready for it.
I think there's a progression for everything. I mean, the control freaks side of every entrepreneur is going to come out at some point if they're a true entrepreneur, right?
Right.
It takes time, and really, I think it's a self-confidence type of understanding that will get you out of that and being able to let go and start to build a team. And ultimately,
on your direct mail, who's doing that right now? Are you handling your direct mail?
No. Well, I mean, I communicate with the mail house, but he's now trained.
Right. So he's like an integrator inside your business.
To an extent, yeah. I mean, he now handles all of it after 5 years and hundreds of thousands of dollars now worth of training.
Oh, I love it, dude.
Oh yeah, but I mean, he knows, we just know each other really well, and we communicate fairly often. So
Right.
that's important. But there's other people that, I'm not a solopreneur at all. I mean, there are several people that are in my organization that just don't all work under my payroll, right? I mean, we're in an age now with technology that you don't have to have everybody in the office to have people that work with you.
I know. Isn't that awesome?
I also like to say that I don't have people that work for me. I mean, because they don't work for me. They work for themselves. We're just working together, right?
Right.
Which is huge. So,
actually, speaking on that, that was one of the things I really enjoyed. So Anna, who's in my organization, she ran project management for me for 6 years in my construction company. And I paid her $40,000 a year, high school education, speaks Spanish. And I gave her a ton of leniency on picking up her kids and all that kind of stuff. So it was a really, really good position for her. But I transitioned her out of construction into wholesale. Now she's making like $8,000 a month because I still pay her base. Plus I pay her 10% of any opportunity she sets up on my calendar. So, and then what I did also is I said, if you ever put me in touch with a probate attorney one time, you don't ever have to talk to that probate attorney again. Every time we get a new deal from him, I'll pay you 10% referral. So it's such a cool business that I can, and same thing with you, like give people opportunities to make more money and have freedom. Like for her, I was joking around with her. I go, man, you're making more than double what you used to. And she goes, honestly, the money's really cool, but now I can work from home and I can hang out with my kids. I don't miss anything. I don't miss any of their school stuff, which is huge.
I mean, dude, like, what an impactful thing you've been able to do for these people, right?
Dude, that we're so lucky.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true. And speaking of that, what does the team look like?
So I have myself as the guy that's going out in the field. That's my goal. I'd probably say in my office, I'll probably be in my office between 4 to 6 hours a week. We're actually moving into Jesse and Evo's new space. We're subletting a couple spots from them. Works out great for us because they have a big community space and they have a big everything that we need. And then I have Cody, who's my partner. So like anything that comes in for me, probate attorney wise, that's just my stuff that I've built up those relationships. But anything that we do with SMS, RVM, and cold calling, Cody, my partner, manages all of that stuff. I've never talked to our cold callers. I've never talked to any of our Podio engineers or any of that stuff. I've never once had a conversation with them. Cody handles all of that stuff. And then I would say they're not really salespeople. We don't have acquisition managers. We have people that basically set appointments all day based on the lead flow that comes into Podio. So lead comes in, Anna or Austin or Ryan will call them and set an appointment for me to go and meet with them. And I feel like I'm a little bit of a hybrid where a lot of guys now are doing virtual wholesaling. I'm not doing that. Like we'll get 1 out of 10 contracts are virtual. Everything else is face-to-face. And then, so that's us 5. And then I have 2 more people. I have Barbara, my bookkeeper and controller. And then I have my wife, Laura, who runs all of our transactions. So I don't have to talk to title. I don't have to do memorandums. I don't have to do any of that stuff. Laura takes care of it. So all of the minutia, once I get a contract, I pass that contract to the team. And my next question is, when's my next appointment?
That's the most efficient and effective way for not only you to be productive, but the team to be productive, and ultimately everybody wins, right?
Right.
You're not having to micromanage your team. You're not having to go out there and make sure that they're doing what they're doing. It's the parents. They're not doing what they're doing. Things aren't getting done.
Right.
Right. What a beautiful thing. What about, where do you see yourself going for the next 5 years?
I don't think I'm going to really grow my wholesale business beyond where it's at now. I want to stabilize it and maybe get an acquisition guy, get trained on the face-to-face, because I feel like the face-to-face, and I'm sure you agree with this, is always going to outbeat the virtual.
Every day, all day long.
Right. So I'd love to have somebody that I trust going into appointments. I tried hiring that out 2 years ago and it crashed and burned. It was like I was running my construction company and I had like $20,000-$30,000 in ad flow for the whole summer, like $10,000-$12,000 a month. And we didn't get one contract. And the guy who had gone out, I was too busy to watch this. Again, why I should have had an integrator 2 years ago. He goes, man, these leads are crap. They're so crap, blah, 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 blah. And I go, you know what, man, I just got to let you go. the very next lead that came in, I went in and made 82 grand on an assignment. And I'm like, oh yeah, so the leads are crap. Got it. So I'd like to find that position so that I can take a little bit more time off. Plus I'm doing a lot of stuff in the assisted living space. I get a call from a guy named Jack, maybe about a year ago. And this is before I knew I was going to sell my franchise. He said, I'm going to make a big suggestion to you. You need to spend 80% of your day figuring out how to get cash flow coming in outside of wholesale. And I said, why? Do you feel like wholesale is going to end? And he goes, no, I was huge. He's a big guy in town. Did a ton of wholesale for 8 years. But what happened is the more he made, the more he spent. He got bigger houses, bigger cars, and all that kind of stuff. And then he got to a point where he's just like, man, I'm chasing every single deal just to feed my 15-person operation. And I don't have any cash flow coming in on anything. So I took that to heart. He's an older guy and he feels like now that's all he did. He got out of wholesale and he's just doing mobile home parks. So I bought my first assisted living space in January. And since then we've accumulated 6 more. 4 of them were already operating. So I just took them over from people that weren't great business owners. Again, they were visionaries, but had no integration. So they were trying to do everything. Like it's just like the typical contractor. They can go out and swing a hammer, but they don't know how to send an invoice. Yep. And they don't know how to collect the money. So I want to be in 5 years, still have my wholesale operation, maybe be in a second market, maybe a third, probably just 2. I would say Dallas, because Dallas is an area where I feel like I'm constantly going to seminars and I go to Dallas a lot. I would say that I'd like to get up to a consistent 25 deals a month with a team that can operate with less than 30 hours of my time a week, and then have 10 assisted living facilities that I basically am disconnected from. Somebody else operates them. And I want to keep focusing on growing that and also my seller finance stuff. So wholesale is, I want to grow it, but I don't want to grow it to like Carlos and Sal. Those guys are doing like 50 deals a month. That's not me. That's too big for me. I mean, it actually kind of scares me and gives me anxiety. I was telling back to Carlos last time I saw him, I was like, dude, your operation gives me anxiety. I don't know that I could handle all of that. So that's not my goal.
I mean, the wholesale thing is it's very transactional, right? As soon as you're done on doing a wholesale deal, you're unemployed. You have no more money coming in. So
that's a really great way of saying that, dude. I never thought about that. Like the second the deal is done, you're employed. You're unemployed.
Dude, I mean, you have nothing else, right? So it's a completely transactional thing. Now, there are massive profits to be made out of wholesaling, and it's a great win-win for everybody involved. But you're never going to get there. You will work your entire life if you're just a wholesaler. So that's
exactly what Jack was saying, and it scared me, dude.
Cherry pick. What I started to do last year is I started to cherry pick the really good deals as rentals that I want. Now, I'm not a single family rental fan, really, because as soon as the tenant moves out, I have no more income, right?
Right.
I'm a huge multifamily guy, have been for a while. But I haven't been able to spend very much time on it because I've been so focused on the transaction.
What's on the multifamily side? So what I look at is I see these big funds coming in and they're gobbling these things up at like 4 caps. Yeah. Is that a super challenging part of the business to get into?
No, well, not necessarily, because these institutional buyers that are coming in typically aren't going to look at the smaller stuff. For example, I have an 8-unit under contract right now in Central Phoenix. I own a triplex in Central Phoenix, and the smaller stuff you're going to go, and probably not even that small. You could get a little bit bigger than that, probably like up to 80 doors or so.
Wow.
Above 80 doors, though, and the institutional guys aren't really looking so much in, let's call it 20 to 80 range, because it doesn't make sense to have on-site property management. It doesn't make sense necessarily to have an on-site maintenance crew. So, that's a lot more work for these funds. You're going to have to get a third party, right? So there's still a ton of opportunity. It just depends on, the cap rates are stupid right now. And the scary thing for me, like, and even this 8-unit that we're looking at, is the fact that right now, like, I'm confident with the numbers, but if something changes in the market,
oh yeah,
I could be bleeding for a while, and I'm not really okay with it, I love rock solid deals, and I like multifamily even in the smaller stuff, because you do have, if one tenant moves out, you got 8 doors, but you got 7 others that can kind of make up.
Right. You're still cash flowing.
as long as the financing that you have set up will account for it, and you're not trying to buy on appreciation, which I think right now is pretty common in the market because so many people have bought smaller units, been able to renovate quickly and get it out of it quickly because we have foreign investment from not only California coming in, but also from Canada, from China. We have places that, foreign investment that's coming in and happy buying at a 4 cap.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. Given inflation's 3%.
So they're just buying on appreciation.
Right.
I mean, it makes sense if you're a fund and you're just trying to beat out inflation, and then you just basically say, look, we've got to give some sort of return to our fund, and you sit on it for 4 or 5 years or whatever. I guess it makes sense for them. But for guys like you and I that got to pay the bills and pay payroll and all that stuff, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it just really doesn't make sense. And so we're trying to figure out. Anyways, I mean, I don't know if you can buy the same product that is here in Phoenix, 70s, 80s, even early 90s built stuff that is, majority 2-bedroom, 1 bath, 2-bedroom, 2 bath. You could buy it in Iowa, where I'm from, for $40,000 a door.
Wow.
I'm under contract at $115 a door right now. Dude, but it makes sense, kind of. It just is where's the upside? How else, now I have a creative finance situation with the seller that I'm in, and so that's the only reason we're in it.
That helps out a lot, dude.
But it's still, I'm not sure if I'm going to follow through with this whole deal. We just have our inspection this Friday, so it's right. Due diligence, and I'm really trying to figure out how to make these numbers work. But I can tell you that when I'm out there raising money from investors, what I will not do is I will not put my investor money at extreme risk. Of course, every investment there's a risk, right? But I'm not going to put it at extreme risk if I'm not 100% confident that I'm going to be able to make it back.
Right. It takes too much time to raise capital, and the big thing is, this is once you raise capital from a couple people and they make money, it makes it easier to raise more capital. So if you're torching people on a bad deal or whatever, dude, you're pressing the reset button.
And if it's just hey, appreciation's been going great. We've been in this, cycle for 10 plus years. It's the same thing that happened in 2006. Now the market's different, but everybody thought it was going to keep on going. People were buying on appreciation, and boom, the music stopped.
We all know probably 500 people each that got torched.
And I want to sleep well at night,
Right.
So anyways, that's kind of, a little bit of what I have going on, and I don't know how we got sidetracked on that.
Well, because I was curious. I feel like somebody made the joke. They go, man, you're in almost every facet of real estate investing. And I go, well, I'm not huge. I'll do flips because I'll do flips now that are $35,000 or less. Obviously, I have the crews that stuck around after I shut the company down. I took my best guys and utilizing that as leverage to sometimes get a deal done that I couldn't wholesale. I actually will flip a house. I will never flip a house because I couldn't sell it. I just will flip a house knowing, okay, this seller wants a little bit too much. They have no money to bring to the table. The only way to get this deal done is if I do the flip myself. So I have 5 flips going on. It's not like I'm a full flip operation like some other guys in town. And then the assisted living, I honestly didn't even plan on getting into that. That fell in my lap. That was a wholesale deal where this lady calls me up. Hey, I'm in foreclosure. I have a problem. I need you to come and bail me out. So I get her operating. She'd been operating for 4 years, cash flowing, making money. And a 10-bed house, so is generating about $30,000 a month in gross. And her cost was about 50%. So she's making $15,000, but she's taking that money home and she's spending it on whatever, right? So at the end of the day, if one bad thing happens, she has no savings, right? So she comes to me, I buy the house for $350,000. I turn around and I assign it for $550,000. I'm about to make a $200,000 assignment fee on assisted living I knew nothing about, right? So she calls me up, and this is 3 days later. She calls me up and she goes, I can't sell this facility. I have to cancel the transaction. And when you're about to make $200,000 on an assignment, what's your answer to that call? F no.
Look, can we talk about it?
Exactly. I said, hey, why don't I stop by? Let's have a conversation. And I told you I'm not the buyer. I'm going to go find a buyer because this isn't what I know. So she knew I was assigning it. So anyway, she basically explains to me her license on the property I'm buying is tied to her other property that she was building up and getting ready to transition over. And so if she sold this business, it would basically kill her entire ability to feed her family because she'd lose everything. So I said, well, look, I'm in this deal. Why don't we just partner? And I just came up with something creative. And she goes, oh my gosh, that'd be great. So I cash her out on the mortgage, and now I control the business, and I've kept her in as a 25% owner plus salary. So anything we net on a monthly basis, she takes 25% home. I take the other 75%.
When that allows the other side of the operation to still, whatever, is she building?
Well, so this is what I did is I said, well, Rose is her name. Sometimes you guys will see her on my Instagram. I said, Rose, you're 60 something years old. You've been doing this for 27 years. You know everything about the business, but you're not a business owner. I mean, you're a business owner, but you're not a business person, right? She had no books. She hadn't filed her taxes in like 2 years. So we caught all that up. We figured that out. So actually the reason I hired a bookkeeper for my wholesale business is because I needed a bookkeeper for her business. Mm-hmm. So I hired a bookkeeper. I hired a placement agent. And then I went out and bought 4 other houses, all on subject to. So now I'm into these other houses with really no money out of pocket, some renovation and some licensing costs. And now I'm paying payrolls and stuff like that until they stabilize, because what happens is you can't start billing until you're like 60 days into being licensed. Mm-hmm. So there's some upfront costs, but now I've taken her operation from 1 house to 4 houses that she's managing, and she's making more money than she was before, but she doesn't have to do any paperwork. She doesn't have to do anything with any of the municipalities or any of that stuff. She just goes and takes care of people and hires caregivers, and that's her entire job.
Well, dude, this is the common denominator of the call today, is the fact that you just need to focus on what you're good at,
right,
and let somebody else do the rest, right? Or focus on what you can be the best, most profitable, or the most efficient at, and outsource everything else. And I love that. It's the best. I try to live my life that way. I really do.
It's tough because you know how it is, Scott. Like you hire 5 people and you find 1 good one.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a super laborious task. You hire somebody, you think they're going to work out, you pay them 3 months of payroll, and then it doesn't work out and you're just exhausted and depleted of your energy. And luckily, after 35, 36 years, I finally have found a couple of people that all mesh together. And I'm going to hold on to that as long as I can and build on top of it and build on top of it, so that when I do happen to lose some people, which I will, people will get other opportunities and whatever, I can easily place them or replace them quickly. Whereas in the past, when I hired it was me and 1 other person. If that 1 other person quit, it's now back to me. So now I'm just rapidly trying to grow it so that I have some insulation from 1 or 2 people quitting, or, hey, a lady gets pregnant, she wants to take 6 months off. I totally understand that, but man, you're a really important part of my business. So I'm spending a lot of my days trying to build up my organization so that at one point, my goal is, Scott, all I want to do is spend Thanksgiving to January 15th not working. That's my number 1 goal.
With family, right? You want to spend it with
family. Traveling, doing all the fun stuff. Because what happens in our world in Thanksgiving till January 15th, everything slows down, right?
Yeah.
So that's my goal, is if I can have my operation continue running, I just maybe answer a couple calls a day, but I'm not even in Arizona. I'm completely somewhere else enjoying California or Miami or whatever.
Right.
That's my biggest goal.
I think it's a good goal, man. And I think it's definitely attainable and achievable. I think sounds like you're on the right path to get there. So anyways, well, hey man, for sake of time, are you ready for a lightning round?
Yeah, let's do it.
We got some new questions today, so I'm excited to get into it. All right, first thing, tell me about a time that you passed on a deal and why. And why was that a good decision?
Oh man, I passed on a deal yesterday. I had a deal yesterday where a guy comes to me and says, I'm $70,000 over budget and I need somebody to come in and take this project over. I went and sat down at the project and I realized he hired all the wrong contractors. The plumbers, like, were putting landscaping plumbing as the main toilet plumbing, like all the white PVC instead of the black, like proper PVC. And I just said, man, I'm passing on this deal. It's not a good fit. And that's a no-brainer for me. I will absolutely not even look at that deal, no matter if I think I can make money or not. It's just not worth the headache.
Yeah, right then and there, that was a great deal to pass on because you start to dig into everything else that's done incorrectly, and you're into this thing.
Sounds like you've been in that situation before, like I have.
A couple times now, yeah. I actually just had that happen with a flip. It wasn't quite as bad. It just was. We had to go in. I didn't buy it from somebody else, but the homeowner, the previous homeowner, had a bunch of jobs done that were not done correctly. They worked for the time being, but they weren't up to code. They weren't the right way. They were only going to cause problems later, and I wasn't willing to take the risk. I'd rather deliver a better product. So
right.
I fixed it anyways. But anyways, good deal. What was the last book that you read?
The last book I read was, this is a really good one for all the men out there. How to Work on Your Marriage Without Talking About It. Because when you start talking about, this was interesting. Like if you read Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, it basically talks about all the differences that men and women have and like how to overcome those, which is a really good book, but it also talks about discussing those problems with each other. And all that does is raise discontent. The book teaches you as a man how to realize what your wife is really saying when she says something like, I'm not angry, or I'm fine, or whatever. Like, what is she really saying? And my wife is absolutely amazing. Anybody that meets her just loves her. But when she was pregnant, we were going through a challenge of like, she was at home so much and I was working so much that we were like, our wavelengths were off. So I read that book just to get the wavelengths back on, and I love that book. And then a handful of other guys around town have asked me about it, and I told them, and they all have texted me saying, dude, that's the best book I've read in 5 years.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. I think I've heard about it. Obviously, I've heard of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. So I'll make sure to download or at least get that book.
Yeah, I mean, when you come home from working, if your foundation, at least for me, my foundation is my house, and I'm sure that everybody that's listening has a similar feeling. But if I don't come home feeling like that is secure, it's hard for me to go out and crush it all day long. So that's my number one task in the morning. Is my house taken care of? Is everything good? And if I leave thinking my wife's mad at me because I left my shoes out or whatever, that's nothing she's ever been pissed off about. But just for an example, it really screws up my day, you know?
I was going to say, man, if she's getting mad at that, that's what you're worried about. I don't know. You might have some other problem.
Yeah.
What are you currently trying to learn? And what have you learned recently?
I'm trying to get better at seller finance. And so I was having trouble with the gap between, let's say that I'm taking over a property at 180 and it's behind 10 grand in foreclosure fees and late mortgage. And then the seller needs some money and the house needs to be repaired. What I've learned is that every time I do a subject to, every house requires about $25,000 in funding. So when you have 5 to 8 of those going on at any given time, that's a tremendous cash flow crunch on you. So what I learned is how to go and raise capital around gap lending so that people are comfortable coming in second position. And I have now 4 people that I've brought in on board that I flat fee. So they bring in $25,000. And then when I replenish their money with the new cash buyer, let's say I get a cash buyer brings in $27,500 down, I flat fee my gap lender $2,500. And I tell them, I'm going to have your money between 30 and 90 days. And if it's 30, I pay you $2,500. If it's 89, I pay you $2,500. So I figured that out. That was something that took me 3 or 4 months to kind of structure. What I'm trying to learn now is how to get in front of more subject to deals in a systematic way, rather than just looking at my own leads. I want to go out to other wholesalers and educate them maybe on the first 2 or 3 deals we do together by saying, hey, you're not doing as many subject twos as you should be. Let me run your appointments for you, show you how I structure these. Let's go run through some of your, low equity deals, get some subject to. I'll flat fee you $2,500 for letting me run the appointment and keep the deal. And then you can watch and see how it's all structured so you can go do it on your own.
If I could make a recommendation on somewhere to learn and to go, and I'd love to have you join into the group because I'm part of the platinum part of the group, is Eddie Speed's Note School.
Oh, Eddie Speed. He's the man, dude.
He is the man. And not only that, but he's a great, he's just 40,000 seller finance notes that he's been part of is a lot of notes, man. What he spitballs out of his head randomly is so almost accurate that you're like, what? So
really?
Yeah.
Did you get training or coaching from him?
I still am now, right now. Yeah.
And all of it's about notes.
So it's all about notes, but I'm specifically looking at creative finance. I mean, that's.
Love that. Yeah, everybody has brought up Eddie Speed multiple times. He's in, I think he's in Austin, or is he in San Antonio?
Dallas. He's in Dallas.
Dallas, okay.
Yeah. He's outside Dallas. He's an old, he's a Texas guy, but bright guy, great teacher, because he comes at you with real experience with, it's not just here's the book, here's how you do it. It's, this is how I've done it in the past.
Yeah, that's what I need. I need hands-on, bro.
Yep. And every single Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we have calls, and it's very interactive. I'm on them every week, and you see different examples. You can ask questions. You can bring a deal to him. He'll spin it up. He'll cut it up right in front of you.
Wow.
So
on the call?
On the call, yep. So
wow, that's really good, dude. I've got a couple that I would love to. I should join that group for sure.
Dude, I can make a connection if you want.
That'd be great.
It's not only that, but it's a great group of guys, and I think there's way more. I have only touched the surface. I think there's a lot that comes into it.
If you focused on just creative finance, you could make a tremendous living at it and long-term wealth for your family. I mean, it's crazy how broad that whole industry really is. And
especially in the market that we're in right now, where assignment fees are getting very compressed, where we're just in such an odd type of market right now. We have really low interest rates, but when the interest rates continue to go up, you can wrap deals. There's just so many ways to go about it. And I only want to learn from the best. I've realized that if I'm going to spend money on coaching, on mentoring, on people that can bring value to my life, I only want the number one.
I'd say Eddie Speed is the number one. Can't be another challenger, really.
Yeah, you can't even talk to him. It's hard to talk to him sometimes because he's so he can just put it all together so quickly. So, anyways, happy to make a connection, man, for sure.
Thank you.
How do you like to give back? This is obviously a huge thing. I know I missed this in the intro about you in the call, but I know that you do some things every week or every month or that helps to give back to people. What are those things?
So what I do is I get a lot of people, I'm sure you do too, DM me and send me text messages. And the majority of those people are asking the same exact questions. And it's impossible to answer those through, DMs or text or even a quick phone call. It's impossible. And so I'm not a coach. I don't feel like that is an avenue I want to go down. I don't think that that's my personality necessarily. So what I do is I just tell people, hey, if you want to join me, I go on so many appointments because, again, my team sets those up for me. I will take you out to appointments for free. You can be in my car, listen to me about how I think about the deal before I go to it. You can watch me in the appointment, whether I sign the deal or not. You can watch me go to the title company, tell them how to handle the escrow. Because a lot of times if I'm in the area, I'll drop by the title company. And it's amazing how many newbies don't even know what it feels like to walk into a seller appointment or what it feels like to even go into a title company or whatever. So my giving back is breaking through those mental barriers where people have this paradigm of it's way too hard to be in this business. I don't think it's hard to break into the business. I think people think it is. I think it's very hard to scale in the business. That's a whole nother conversation. So what I do is on my Instagram, you'll see this all the time. Hey guys, this week I'm going to have people go around with me and I'll tag people on my Instagram. Hey, this is my ride along partner for the day. And I have people flying in from all over the country, coming and sitting in my Prius for a day or two just to watch me work. And some guys, I just go, don't ask questions, just watch me work because I got a busy day. Or other guys, when I have a little bit slower of the day, go ask as many questions as you want. But, so that's what I feel like that's my way of giving back.
No, I think that's huge, man. And you're helping people to overcome those barriers, right? So great example.
That's what I really wanted when I first jumped in the business. I would reach out to other HomeVestor franchisees and I'd say, can I go on an appointment with you? And it felt like some secret they were trying to keep from me. And then when you get into the business, you go, it's not really a secret. It's just, I feel like people were embarrassed to take me on an appointment because they were afraid of failing in front of me. And so I had to overcome that for myself where I go, I don't care if I fail. I always will learn from a buy appointment. I know you feel the same way. I didn't get that deal because of this, this, and this. I'm going to be better next time. And I feel like I can teach a newbie how to be good in a buy appointment better and faster than on a failed appointment. So I've overcome that fear, and I just tell guys, come watch me work, watch me screw up, watch me succeed, whatever.
Yep. And those failures, you fail forward, right? So the ability to look and see maybe what happened during that interaction that made it fail is the most powerful thing. So good deal. Yeah, I like that, man. Last question. How could the listeners reach you? You know, obviously Instagram, Facebook, different social medias, which we'll make sure to include in the show notes here, but how else can they reach you?
I always give my cell phone out on any of these deals. People can text me. My cell phone is 480-239-1066. Feel free to text me from anywhere in the country. I'm happy to chat with you. I had a deal, and here's the way that benefits me. I had a guy last week reach out to me from Houston, and he goes, hey, I've got a deal, but it requires $5,000 non-refundable. So I said, sweet, send me the details. I looked at it and I go, dude, I'd put $5,000 non-refundable up for a deal like that. Let's do it. And that all came from a text that giving my cell phone out. So if anybody needs help on weird stuff like that, if it's a good deal, I'll help out.
And sometimes people don't know it's a good deal. Like, sounds like in that example, right? You send it over and said, oh man, like I'm scared it's $5,000 non-refundable. And then you look at the deal and you're like, let's do it.
Right, 100%.
So that's huge, man. And Pace, it's been phenomenal to have you on the show today.
Typically, thank you, man. You're awesome.
Thank you. I really appreciate you being here, and you shared a ton of information on a lot of different levels. I mean, typically these calls don't go this long, and I'm happy because we can keep talking.
Wow, we've gone a long time. I'm sorry.
No, I do not apologize. A ton of value that was brought to the table today, and I look forward to keeping in touch. We'll see you next Tuesday at the RIA.
Absolutely, brother.
We'll stay in touch, man. Maybe I'll have you come back on here in maybe 6 months, and
I'd love that.
All right, man.
Thank you, homie. Have a good day.
Hey, you too. See ya.